Um, the
Okay.
topic we chose, we're talking about the preteen years and how parents can prepare for those years with their children. So we focus on like 10 to 13-year-olds. And we're going to begin by playing a little video here for you. And I'm going to try to screen share. I think I figured it out. Tell me if you can't see it, though. Okay, just a minute. I lost you guys.
What?
Just a minute. Okay, there we go. So I push screen share. Excuse me while I figure this out. Okay, can you see that?
Some of what I've learned is
Can you see the video?
No,
No.
I can hear it, but I can't see it.
Oh, I pushed the screen share button. Okay, just.
Do you want me to try it and see if? I wonder. That's weird. Can you see mine?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Okay, I must have done it wrong.
No, that's okay. Yeah, okay. So I'll just play it for you on here then.
Okay. Oh, but we can't hear it. I can't hear it.
What?
You have your earphones on.
Okay, let's see if that works. Can you hear it now?
No.
How does this work?
Okay, hold on.
Is your volume on?
Yeah, it is on, and let's see. Let me make sure. This is good that this isn't going to be an issue when we're teaching, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully. Ooh, yeah, everything's. Huh. Well, Amanda, if you want to play it, because as long as she can hear it, you know, right?
Yeah.
So let me unscreen share here because I don't. There you go. Okay.
Okay, tell me if you can hear this.
father and a grandfather.
Yes.
Can you hear that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me try that.
May I share some of what I've learned as a father and a grandfather to encourage parents and all who are called to lead and serve the youth of this world. Several years ago, I was reading the newspaper when one of my grandsons snuggled up to me. As I read, I delighted to hear his sweet little voice chattering on in the background. Imagine my surprise when a few moments later, he pushed himself between me and the newspaper. Taking my face in his hands and pressing his nose up to mine, he asked, "Grandpa, are you in there?" "Mother, Father, are you there? Grandpa, Grandma, are you there?" Being there means understanding the hearts of our youth and connecting with them. Connecting with them means not just conversing with them, but doing things with them too. To truly understand their hearts, we must do more than just be in the same room or attain the same family and church activities. We must plan and take advantage of teaching moments that make a deep and lasting impression upon their minds and hearts. I remember as a young man asking permission to play baseball through dinner time. I said to my mother, "Just put my meal in the oven." She responded, "Robert, I really want you to take a break. Come home, be with the family for dinner, and then you can go out and play baseball until dark." She taught all of us that where family meals are concerned, it's not the food, but the family interaction that nourishes the soul. Fathers, mothers, as you drive or walk children to school, their various activities, do you take the time to take the earplugs so that they can hear you and feel of your love? Do you take the time to talk about their hopes and dreams and fears? For our interactions to truly touch their hearts, we have to pay attention to them just as we pay attention to a trusted adult colleague or a close friend. Most important is letting them talk, then asking them questions, and then being willing to listen. Yes, listen. And listen some more. I ask the Lord's blessings to be with the parents and with the youth, that they might be loved, directed, and guided, that we may have eternal families and be together forever in the presence of God the Father and His Son, Jesus Christ.
Okay. Now, if I can find you guys. Okay. So, as you can see, we're focusing on communication in this first section. It is said that what you communicate to someone depends not only on what you say and how you say it, but also on how the other person interprets what you say and how you say it. I don't know if you've ever read this book. I have a book to share. It's called More Parts. I want you to listen to see how there is miscommunication between the parents and child. Let's see, I don't know if you can see the picture. Things are bad and getting worse. Each day it's something new. With all the stuff I hear about, I don't know what to do. One day I tripped on my red truck and it just fell apart. But when I told my mom, she said, "I'll bet that broke your heart." I guess that's possible. Who knows? I don't think Mom would lie. I'd better play more carefully. This pillow's worth a try. People say all kinds of things that I don't understand, like when my dad asked me if I would please give him a hand. I didn't know my hands come off, and I don't want them to. So I'll make sure that they stay on with gloves and lots of glue. Our next door neighbor had a joke he wanted us to hear. He said it's sure to crack you up. I ran away in fear. Who wants to hear a joke like that? Not my idea of fun. I gotta keep my head together. It's my only one. My teacher has me worried too. This happened yesterday. She said to stretch our arms and legs before we go and play. I'm sure she thinks it's good for us, but that's just too bizarre. My arms and legs are long enough. I like the way they are. I know I've got a lot to learn. I'm little and I'm young. But what did Grandma really mean when she said, "Hold your tongue"? My tongue's a slimy, jiggly, squishy, slippery little squirt. It'd be my luck to squeeze too hard and lose it in the dirt. So I decided that it's best to stay here in my room, because who knows when some little thing just might lead to my doom. Then Mom and Dad came in and asked me, "Why are you upset?" I told them all the things I've heard that get me in a sweat. Like Coach, who says before each game is ready to begin, he gets so nervous that he nearly jumps out of his skin. Well, what a friend said recently, it gave me such a fright. He claimed his baby sister screams her lungs out every night. My skin could slip, my head may crack, and I might break my heart. I could lose my lungs, my hands, who knows when it might start. What if, quite by accident, my body falls apart? Mom and Dad just smiled and looked, relieved that I'm okay, and Mom explained to me about the things that people say. And though Dad laughed, I know he didn't mean to be unkind. When he said, "For a minute, son, we thought you'd lost your mind." So as you can see, sometimes the things we say, or sometimes the things children say, even though we understand what we're saying, they don't always understand what you're really trying to say. I want to ask you, Nancy, what do you feel makes a good listener?
I think a good listener is a person that not only can repeat what you're saying, but understand what you're saying. Like, it's not the same as, oh, I hear you. You can hear something, but they might trying to tell you something, you're not listening to what they're trying to tell you.
Okay.
Great. All right. So speaking of that, we're going to talk about poor listening skills and the different kind of poor listeners there are out there. And it was really fun to read through these because both me and Amanda read through them and thought, oh no, like that's me. That's how I listen. Anyways, and so we're just going to kind of go through them. There are 4 or 5, oh my goodness, 5 different listener or different type of poor listening. The first one is the faker. And the faker is kind of self-explanatory. They only pretend to be listening. They aren't really listening. So like Nancy said, she thinks that a good listener is somebody who understands and can repeat back what you say. But the faker won't do that for you. The faker will pretend they're listening by nodding and saying mm-hmm and pretending that they're listening. And so don't be that kind of listener. The next listener or poor listener is a dependent listener. And this one was a little tricky for me to understand, but some people are dependent on pleasing others, and so they want to please the speaker rather than actually delve in and understand what the speaker is saying. And so they're really concerned about making a good impression on them. And a good example is it says is a woman who is overly dependent on her husband may not listen to what he is saying because she is concerned primarily with pleasing him rather than understanding and helping. And then unfortunately, she does not realize the relationship she is so desperate to maintain may be jeopardized rather than strengthened by her behavior. And so the dependent listener is more of they're dependent on pleasing their speaker, I guess you could say. The next poor listener is the interrupter. And sometimes I find myself under this category. But the interrupter is just that, they interrupt. And so a conversation with an interrupter would go something like this. The wife would say, I really had a rough day today. I thought my boss was going to. And then the husband interrupts and says, I bet your day wasn't any worse than mine. I couldn't believe the way my clerks were fouling up today. I think I'm going to have to bring them in one by one for some additional training. Then his wife says, yeah, those people can drive you up the wall at times. Well, my boss just about went through the ceiling. Then the husband interrupts again and says, you got to stop letting him get to you. You just tell him you'll quit if he keeps on doing this. And so he doesn't let her finish, obviously, and he interrupts her mid-sentence. And so the wife doesn't have an opportunity to express her feelings and her emotions. The next one is the self-conscious listener. And this one is kind of self-explanatory as well. They're concerned about what their status is their status is to others. And so they're trying to impress the other person rather than listening. So they don't have that full understanding because they're thinking in their head, am I impressing them enough? Am I doing, am I doing what I'm supposed to, or am I living up to my, anyways. And so the last one is the intellectual listener. And the intellectual listener is kind of just that. They're very intellectual, and so they like to share all the things that they know, which sometimes can kind of make them a little bit standoffish a little bit, because they're like, well, did you know? And so instead of listening, they're trying to like one step and be ahead of you and try to almost step over you. And so those were the different types of listeners that we wanted to kind of go over, because I think sometimes we can overlook those things. For example, I overlook the fact that I am an interrupter sometimes. and some other times I also feel like I am the dependent listener. But especially with our teens, I feel like these are things that we really need to watch out for, because they really take those things to heart. And they really do need you to be listening and understanding, like Nancy said too, really taking it in and making sure that they understand what they're coming from, where they're coming from. So the next, I wanted to talk a little bit about improving our listening skills, because some of us can think we are the best listeners in the whole world because we just sit there and nod and stuff like that. But a lot of times there's a lot of work that we all can do. So I'm going to list off 6 ways that we can improve our listening skills. One is to be an active listener. Being an active listener it's kind of all going back to what Nancy's comment was, is to really understand where your teacher or your speaker is coming from, to really look at them, to concentrate on them, to focus on them. Obviously not in an awkward stare or like, bug eyes and everything like that, but make sure that they know that you're paying attention by your body language. And also just making little comments like, oh, that's interesting, or I see, things like that. That helps them to learn or to see that you're being an active listener. The other one is resist distractions. This one can be very hard. I know, especially when you're a parent and you have other children around, it can be really hard to resist those distractions of your other children's needs while dealing with your other child. We have technology everywhere. Phones can be a distraction. You can get text calls, all those things that can distract you. But it is very, very important to resist those distractions, because it can break that concentration and that active listening that you are doing with your child. Another one is to control your emotions. I'm only a parent of a 3-year-old. My oldest is 3 and I have a 1-year-old. And controlling my emotions is already really hard. There's some times where he's starting to really tell me things like, Mom, this is what I think, or this is what I feel, and stuff like that. And sometimes I'm like, no, like you can't. And I want to react with my emotions. And it's the same for all kids. I mean, with teenagers especially, you're gonna be getting a lot more feedback from your teenagers than from a 3-year-old. But controlling those emotions is important, because you don't want them to feel like you're overpowering them, or that you don't want them to express their feelings. Another thing is to clarify by asking questions, which I thought is kind of interesting, because at the same time, you don't want to ask a ton of questions to overbear them with questions and to make them feel like, okay, never mind. Because we all know that teens will probably get a little overwhelmed and like, you don't need that much information. But asking questions such as, how did that make you feel? Or, what do you think you can do next time? Or things like those. And also asking questions to clarify what they're saying. And so if there's something that you think, oh, that could go either way, making sure that you ask them, do you mean this? And if that's what they mean, then they'll say, you agree, and say, okay. and then let them continue. And then obviously if it's not what they meant, they will tell you what it meant or what they meant. Anyways, and that kind of goes into the summarizing, making sure that you've understood everything correctly, because like we've seen, sometimes it's really hard to to get the same interpretation between each child and parent and child. The last thing that I would encourage for everybody is to practice with everyone around you. No matter if it's family, if it's your children, siblings, mothers, fathers, but also coworkers and just acquaintances wherever you're at, church board members, anything, to practice and make sure that you're using all these skills to improve your listening skills. Because with practice makes perfect, right? And if we can practice these skills, it can really help improve our listening skills, and especially with our teenagers, because that's who we're going to live with every day. So we need to learn good communication skills with our teenagers to make them feel like they are welcome to express their feelings and their opinions and ideas. And yeah.
Hey.
Nice.
This quote is up. It says, we'll have a display. It says, when children are in the midst of strong emotions, they cannot listen to anyone. They cannot accept advice or consolation or constructive criticism. They want us to understand what is going on inside them, what they are feeling at the particular moment. Furthermore, they want to be understood without having to disclose fully what they are experiencing. It is a game in which they reveal only a little of what they feel. We have to guess the rest. A child's feelings must be taken seriously, even though the situation itself is not very serious. I was thinking of an experience I had the other day with my son. He's 12, and he just was having a hard time, and I could tell what was wrong, but he didn't want to open up to me. And he told me, he's like, I don't want to tell you, because either you're going to try to fix it, or you're going to try to fix it, or you're going to just tell me something to make me feel better, and it won't be the truth. And I promised him, I said, okay, what if I promise just to listen and not to say anything back to you? And finally, he told me, well, I feel like you love JT more. I feel like you love my little brother more. And I didn't know what to do, because I had promised him I was just going to listen. But he needed to know that I don't have a favorite child. And so it was just a hard place to be in. So when people are upset, no matter what I was to tell him, he had it in his mind, and he had it in his mind what I was going to do and say already. Let's see. How many of you, Nancy, have a child that is really passionate about something?
You're asking the wrong person.
Do you have any children?
I don't have any kids.
You have children? Okay.
But I had two daughters.
You do? Hey, you have a
They're
passionate
like
child.
children.
Michaela,
I do have a passionate child, so.
how does your child feel when they don't do well at that thing they're passionate about?
Oh man, and that's tough because mine's only 3, so I don't think he knows the difference. But sometimes, well, for example, the other day we got these little stencils in his Happy Meal, because he got a Happy Meal. I got these little stencils, and he was trying to use the stencils, and I helped him, and he would tell me, he'd be like, "Hey, Mom, hold my hand and help me through." And anyways, and so I can't remember. I think it was the letter Q. It was the letter Q, and it had the circle, right? With the little, and then it had the little mark there. Anyways, And so he just did the circle and didn't do the mark. And so it just, it didn't make a cue. And so I was like, oh no. I was like, you forgot the mark. He looks at me and he goes, no. And I was like, yeah, you got to make the mark to make a cue. He kind of said, oh, shoot, you're right. And that's what he said to me. Anyways, but it was like, he's kind of like, okay. Like, anyways, but it was the first thing where it was like, because he was really, it's not like he was really passionate about stencils, but he was really passionate about learning something new. And when he made a mistake, it was like, oh, like it was almost like, I make mistakes, what? And he kind of just, I don't know, it wasn't like he got down. I mean, he forgot it in 3 seconds. But yeah, he could tell, that he had made a mistake. And anyways, so I don't know if that answers your question, but
okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Changing your speaking habits can be hard to do. What are some speaking habits that you may have? Let's see. I might change this in the future, Michaela.
Okay. This is why we have this, right? This is.
Yeah. Do you think your speaking habits aid in your children's habits?
What'd you say?
So, reading my notes, it doesn't make sense. So, do you ever find yourself being like sarcastic or preaching or yelling at it? And you really don't, huh, Nancy? You seem too nice.
Yeah.
Don't judge the book by the cover.
Do you ever?
I mean, I can tell you with adults, yes.
With adults, yeah.
There are times that I'm very sarcastic. I think sometimes you want to say something, but you don't want to be too mean about it. So you use sarcasm to say, this is how I feel about it, but I'm not really telling you directly how I feel about it.
Yeah.
And both ways they kind of wrong in a way, because you're still not communicating what you're trying to say, and you're kind of half angry on your comments, what you're saying. So yes, the kids learn that, because I've seen it a lot. I work with kids, and the way that the parents speak, the kids pick up a lot. And it's kind of funny, because it's like the meaning them of them. Because I have friends, her kids is 8 and 14, and it's just like them talking, but in a miniature form. And it's weird, and like, it wears me out. So yes, they do listen to everything you say and the way that you say it. And I think teenagers, the more sarcastic you are to them, they will pick up and say the same things to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So watch out.
So it looks like you understand. It really can change a child's behavior. They pick up on those things, and sometimes they take it to heart and they become depressed. Sometimes they become mean in a way. So the way that a parent communicates with the child can really have an effect on that child.
Mm-hmm. And so with that, we kind of wanted to talk a little bit about constructively criticizing our children. There's some things out there that say there's no such thing as constructively criticizing, but I think there definitely is. And like Nancy said, some people can use it through sarcasm, and some preach to criticize, and some yell to criticize. All those ways can really have an effect on how the child reacts to many things in life, especially as they get older and enter the adult world. And so we found an acronym. The word is CALM, and this acronym is supposed to help, or is going to help, help you criticize your children more constructively. So C stands for communicate. And you need to be clear about what you expect of your child and what consequences will come, or what consequences they will have. Use clear communication and always be committed and also consistent with the expectations and consequences. Because I know that sometimes in single families, especially when you've got multiple children in the home, sometimes it can be really hard to be consistent with those expectations and consequences. And so being consistent and being clear about your expectations and consequences for your child can really help them to prevent a lot of things, or to prevent their, their mishaps. I'm not going to say it's going to cure your child of mistakes, but anyways, it can at least let them know what you expect of them. So then when something happens that you do not approve of, it's not like, oh, I didn't know you wanted me to do that, or I didn't know you didn't approve, which teenagers will definitely take advantage of. I know I did. So anyways, the next one, A, is for avoid. Avoid engaging in an argument with your child. Sometimes the argument, most of the time, it'll probably be started by your child. When being criticized, your child will decide to pick an argument. But if that's the case, I think, or what you need to do is to clearly state what the child has done, how they kind of, jumped out at you, and just say, we need to have a calm moment for a second, and to leave the room. That was one thing that really stuck out to me, because I know for me, I'm one of those girls that I fight. I'm like, we fight it out now. We don't wait. Like, and but my husband is a really good example of knowing when you need to take a step out of the room for a minute to cool down, so that you don't come back and say something that you will regret. And so this goes directly with teenagers. You don't want to say something to a teenager that you'll regret, or something especially that they can come back at you later for. Anyways, and so avoid that confrontation. And if it has to come to leaving the room, then you leave the room. L stands for listening, for listen, not listening, listen. And we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but make sure that you're actively listening to your child and pay close attention to what they say, and also pay close attention to their body language. Teens especially use a lot of body languages, especially in the face. They like to use their face or not use their face, but they have a lot of body language that sometimes parents can overlook, that can really tell you a lot about how they're feeling. With that, I know when I am mad, sometimes I smile like this when I'm mad, and I'll be talking to my husband and be arguing, and I'll be smiling. And but he knows me, and so he knows that when I'm mad and I'm smiling, I'm really mad. I'm really upset. And just knowing your child's body language can really make a huge difference in how you criticize them, especially because if you're telling them, hey, this is something that I've noticed, and they get defensive, then you need to know when they're getting defensive so that you can approach it appropriately. The last one for M stands for mend. This work hard to mend the problem. This is obviously super hard sometimes, and especially with teenagers who have outrageous hormones and emotions and all that kind of stuff. And like we had said earlier too, that in the midst of strong emotions, they cannot listen to anybody. So sometimes mending the problem can be hard, but on a parent's perspective, or from a parent's side, we need to be sure that we're not blaming or criticizing our children. We need to explain to them maybe what they can do next time to do better, to handle the situation. And sometimes that can be hard for them to take, just because they feel like they're always right and they can do what they want. But helping them and giving them that advice can maybe, it can get their brains working and thinking, okay, that is something that I could have done next, that I could have done that might have, created a better outcome. Also, when you do, advise on a different way to handle a situation, make sure that, you tell them why you think they should do it that way, why you think it would be good for them to handle it differently. Then they can understand that, okay, it's not just her telling me. It's like there's a reason why she's, my parent is telling me to do this. And so lastly, our last activity, let me pull it up. I have a few examples on my phone. We're going to kind of do a little role playing. And so I'm going to say something towards my teenager. And I want you, Nancy, to try to come up with a better way to say it. A better way, it's all constructive, or it's all criticism, but I want you to try to come up with ways that you can better criticize and say things a little bit better for the child to be, acceptive of your advice. So the first example I thought of was, you should really work hard on being more optimistic. So what would be a better way to say that to a teenager?
To work hard to be more optimistic.
Uh-huh.
I think if you were my child and I wanted you to be more optimistic.
These are kind of hard. I had a really hard time.
I think that sometimes to be optimistic, you need to be a little bit grateful. And I think one of the exercises that I would suggest is to look at the bright thing, look at the bright side of everything. Okay. For example, today, tell me the good things that happened today. And I don't know, the child say, well, someone gave me a candy. Well, yeah. Like, to me, being optimistic is also being aware of the little things.
Yeah.
So if I can help you be aware of the little things, you will be looking for the good things in life instead of the bad things. And eventually you pick up on you only will look into the good things instead of the bad. It will immediately make you optimistic about life.
Right? You'll be feeling those good vibes rather than
yes.
That's great. Just because we only have one person, I'll just give my example that I came up with. Is to maybe say something like, I really enjoy the optimistic side of your personality, or something like that. Obviously that was kind of bad tone. See what I mean? I'm like, I really enjoy that side, so where is it? But saying something like almost more complimenting that characteristic, right? So anyway, so I really like what you said though, Nancy, to help them see those things to become more optimistic. So great.
I just point out, I think, some just came to mind. We've learned in some of our classes before to use I statements. Instead of saying you need to or you should, you turn it back to you and say, I feel like we need to work on this, or I feel like so.
And that's what I
just put it on them.
Yeah, and that's actually what I came up with, a few of those as well, because we've learned in our previous classes that to use I statements instead of you. So one example would be, instead of saying something like you should, or you wait, what am I saying? Okay. You make me so angry when you leave your socks on the stairs. Which, I don't know about you, but my husband leaves his clothes on the side of the bed all the time, and it makes me so mad. But
He's a man.
Right? But if I say that, I mean, is he going to be very receptive to that? Probably not. So instead, maybe I could say something like, I get upset when socks are left on the stairs. Can we work on putting them in the laundry room instead? Something like that. Or, so focusing more on the I statements rather than the you, so they don't feel that blaming and that criticizing right off the bat, especially with teenagers. They'll burst. So, but I'm also not a teenager and I would burst. So, anyways, one more example. I was reading in an article, and it said to be careful not to attack your teen's character. And I think sometimes that can be really hard when we're trying to criticize them on something that they do that they could improve on. And so, for example, you could say something like, teenagers are always messy, right? So you could say something like, "Oh, you're such a slob. Can you clean your room?" Right? And instead, you should say something like, I know you're super busy with school and with sports, but I need you to keep your room clean. Is that okay? Or something like that, and to try to make it more like not so blunt and not so criticizing and piercing. That's the one word that I keep thinking of, is like, don't make it so piercing and so fierce that they feel that they can't be who they are. So anyways, there's a few more examples that I was going to give, but since we only have Nancy here, we'll just call it good there. But yeah, so we're good. That was our section that we've decided to teach today.
That's good. I did take notes. It was a good lesson too. I like the acronym CALM, and how you talk about like all the bad listening skills. I'm definitely an interrupter. My husband says that too. He interrupts me to tell me that interrupting.
You're interrupting. My turn.
Oh man, that's when you know it's bad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was something in our original lesson. We're gonna kind of do more of a, like, we'll actually pick on some people and have them come up and tell me something, or like tell us something, and we'd react to them in that poor listening skill. Anyways, but I was nervous. I'm so bad at improvising, so I was like, I need to practice this first.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Okay.
Good.
Are you ready for your turn?
I mean, even if I'm not, I'm ready. Now, I'm going to time myself to do 15 minutes. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
So I'm not going to give you the whole lesson. To whatever 15 minutes it is, what I'm going to give you.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that okay? Because I was thinking about summarizing everything, but it would be okay if it wasn't like we had to do it like if we were teaching.
Yeah.
It'd be different. But since I'm only giving 15 minutes, I'm gonna do it just like I would do it in a class.
Perfect.
Okay. Let me get myself together. So, hello everybody. My name is Nancy Page. I'm a student at BYU. I want to take the time to thank you for coming to the class. If you can see in front of you, I have a pen and a pencil. And I would like for you guys to put your name because I'm really bad with names. So it will be easier for me to interact with you better if I can see your name and if you can put it in your shirt so that we can have a better communication and I won't forget you guys' names. I also would like for us to kind of get to know each other a little bit better before we start with the presentation. If you can just tell me your name and we can go around the room.
I'm Amanda.
I'm just, oh my gosh. I'm Michaela.
Sorry. I'm obligated to.
Sorry.
Before we start the workshop, I would like to talk about a little bit about the privacy. Everything that we discuss in this class will stay in this class. And also, I want to let you know that I would if there's any suggestion of child abuse and obligated to report. Also, I would ask that everybody respect each other's opinions and that we can be a little bit sensitive because a lot of the issues that we're going to talk about are really sensitive and personal. And we will appreciate if we can kind of be sensitive and aware of other people's feelings. First of all, I would like to tell you about the objectives of this class. We're going to talk about what mental issues among the in couples and how they affect each other. We're going to talk about how mental issues affect both of the partners and what kind of adjustments happens in a relationship when they are faced with mental issues. And we're going to try to understand some of the disorders and how we need to what to do when we need professional help. First of all, I imaginary PowerPoint that I will have. We're gonna talk about some topics and some disorders like depression, anxiety, OCD, PTSD, borderline personality disorder, and bipolar disorder, and schizophrenia. And for our first activity, each one of you, I'm gonna select a group, 4 different groups, and in each group, you guys get together to describe or to understand what depression is to you and what your understanding of depression is. Now, I don't know how to do this with you guys.
Yeah.
So, for the sake of the learning process, if you guys can describe what depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder is. Only those 3.
Okay. So describe, like, in our own words what it means to us.
Mm-hmm. So what do you understand for it?
You want to go first, Amanda? Okay.
Depression to me is when you get, you start seeing things in a negative way, and it starts to affect how you interact with other people. Anxiety is where you, I don't know, blow things out of proportion, or you worry a lot. You worry how things you do and say are going to affect others, and how what they do and say are going to affect you. And what was the other one?
PTSD.
Is that good?
Yeah. What's PTSD? Post-traumatic stress disorder.
I guess that's where you've been placed in a really stressful state, and it starts to mess with your mind and maybe cause anxiety and depression and some other things. I don't know a lot about it, so Michaela, what do you say?
Okay, so yeah, PTSD to me, I think it's, I mean, it's from a traumatic experience. I know a lot of times they refer to PTSD to like military personnel, but I think anybody who goes through anything traumatic can experience PTSD, and it's, I mean, I feel like it's a combination of everything, depression, anxiety, and fear and stress, and I don't know. I've never had PTSD, at least I don't think, but anyways, but that's, I don't know, that's kind of what I think, I guess, but I could be totally wrong.
Perfect. So we're gonna compare our answers of what the true meaning of what those are. And imaginary board over here. I'm gonna put all the definitions of it. There's a lot of imaginary things here. So depression is more than just sadness. People with depression may experience the lack of interest and pleasure in daily activities, significant weight loss or gain, insomnia, excessive sleeping, lack of energy, inability to concentrate, feelings of worthlessness, or excessive guilt or recurrent thoughts of death or suicide. Anxiety is characterized by feelings of tension, worry, thoughts, and physical change. PTSD is the anxiety disorder caused by a traumatic event such as a comeback, natural disaster, or a crime, or even a traffic accident. It might affect the personal relationship or health.
Awesome.
So just like you say, some of the things that we because a lot of people have a perception of what a mental issue is, and it's a little bit different when the perception of what you see and the perception of what the person that is going through that feels, and it can be very, very hard to understand. um, but I think in couples, um, they seem to know a little bit more of what the disorder is just because they see it daily, they see it in their interactions with their partner. So there's a lot of stigma with mental health. And because there's a lot of stigma, a lot of people they don't get treatment. Some of the people don't understand what they have. So they don't seek help because they feel like um, that if they say something to someone else, they might think they're weird. So how are people with mental issues commonly described? What are some of the things that you hear about people with mental issues?
They might say that they're crazy, or like sometimes with depression, you often hear people say, oh, they should just get over it. If they would get out of bed and do something, then they wouldn't have this problem. And I think they kind of blame them for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what I think too. I think a lot of people don't realize how I don't want to say I don't know, but how mental it really is. That the brain is hard to change. The brain is very hard to change. Some other things that I've heard are like they're crazy. Some things that I've heard as well is kind of like what Amanda said, is to just deal with it. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it, kind of a thing. Or anyways, so yeah. Some other things too is along with depression, it's kind of like sometimes people think they do it for attention, and stuff like that. And anyways, it's crazy what some people can come up with.
Yeah, I think also when it comes to religion part of it, a lot of people feel like, oh, they don't have enough faith. If they can only have a little bit more faith, they will feel better. And I think a lot of we had seen actually a few talks about people with mental issues, where it's not something that is necessarily a punishment for them, but it's a trial that they have to face every day. And it's a hard trial. Everybody has different trials, but I think it's a difficult trial depending on the disorder. Some of them will have it forever, and some of them might have it for a short time. So 1 in 5 people will struggle from mental issues. 2 to 3% of the adults will face more serious disorders such as bipolar disorder or schizophrenia. Depression is estimated to become the second leading cause of disease burden, that the major cause of disability worldwide by 2020. Mental disorders don't just affect the sufferer, but also affects the people around them, especially their family. Much of the care providers to suffer is, obviously by the family. And not only by the family, sometimes it affects the people around them. It can be their co-workers, it can be their, it depending on the person, it can be their students, it can be their teachers, it can be anybody that they interact with. So I have another activity where we're gonna represent that mental issue. And it's kind of hard. I know I'm picking a different kind of audience because most of the audience that I'm gonna pick they're either affected by, or they know someone, or their partner is have mental issues. So I just gonna give you an example because I don't really know if you guys know what it would be like for a person.
Mhm.
So if we can, okay, how am I gonna do this when you guys are not here? Well, I'll give you an example. So let's pretend that Amanda and I are having a conversation about how the day was on here, and Michaela, right?
Michaela, yeah.
Michaela is gonna be as pretending like you were talking to Amanda's ear at the same time that she's talking to me.
Okay.
And this representation is what is life for a person who has schizophrenia.
Wow.
So you're having to concentrate on the conversation that you're having with me, Amanda.
Okay.
But you're hearing voices that are telling you completely different things than what you and I are talking. So obviously we can't really do it. You're not.
Nancy, how was your day?
I'm over here like, no.
If I can think of it, it's like when, in the cartoons, they had the devil and the angel talking to each other, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. If I can give you a visual thing, obviously when I give the class, we're actually gonna do
Yeah.
the sample.
Uh-huh.
But if I can just visually pretend it for you, because I don't think it's gonna work out.
Right? That's a great example. Good work on that example.
It's basically having a conversation and having two, sometimes even three little angels talking to you at the same time. So
Wow.
it's overwhelming for someone that has schizophrenia. And a lot of people that have mental issues, is hard. Like, people don't understand how hard it is to take medication. Not because it's hard to put it in your mouth. It's because of all the side effects that they come with.
Mhm.
They make you, sometimes they numb you enough that you don't feel anything. You don't feel happiness, you don't feel sadness, you don't feel nothing. And sometimes feeling nothing is like the worst feeling that you can feel. So sometimes people don't take the medication as prescribed, or they don't refuse to take medication just because of all the side effects that they have to face every day. And because it affects your partner, and not only your partner, but affects you. Like I said, mental. So I would like to show you a video. Oh my goodness. How am I going to do this? Hopefully I get it. Okay.
Oh.
Can you see it?
Yep.
Can you see my screen? Can you see
Oh,
my
yep.
screen?
Yep.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yep.
Can you hear it?
I don't think we can hear it. I wonder
Okay.
why you...
Okay. Can you hear it at all?
I can't.
No. That's weird. Uh,
Hmm. Well, I can't hear it. I'm interested to see it, though. Can you tell us what it's
I'm
called? And
sorry. Hold on. Sorry.
I
Oh
wonder...
my goodness.
I'm sharing audio. Sorry, I'm trying to Google it to see maybe how we can get the volume to work, but...
No, were you able to see anything?
yeah, we can see the video. It just doesn't have the sound.
Okay, hold on. Okay. So let me see if I can share it in here.
Oh, on the...
Can you see the...
Yeah, it gives us the link, and then we can click on the link, right?
Yeah. Will you click on the link? Because that's the only way that I can share it to you.
Yeah. Can you hear that on my computer? Like Amanda's did?
I can't.
Okay, wait, I just started it. I don't know why I didn't. I'm taking pictures.
What
Hold on.
if I play it? If I play it, can you at least hear it?
You probably
Maybe.
could.
Can you hear it?
I can't. Can you, Amanda?
No.
If Amanda played it on her computer, maybe it would work as it did with her other one. Do
Yeah.
you want to try it, Amanda?
Okay. What's the link?
It's in the group chat there. In the
Okay, let me.
Hangout screen.
I will ask my
Okay.
husband how to do this next time when we're ready.
I know I just Googled it and it was talking about you need to do this and that, and I'm like, that's too much for right
No, too much work.
now.
Okay, let me see if this. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
was best friends with his sister.
And my sister said, you got to meet my friend. I'm like, no, I'm not going to date one of your friends. And then Mary walked in the room, and I said, well, I changed my mind. I'll date your friend.
And I actually called my mom that day, and I said, Mom, you're not going to believe this, but I met the man I'm going to marry. I've kind of always known that I was a little different than everybody. The first time I noticed that there was something wrong was ironically on the day he proposed to me. I was graduating that year, and here comes the man of my dreams, and I was so depressed, and I knew there was something wrong.
Especially being young, you don't really understand, what you're seeing. Because nobody really talks about mental illness.
I was so extremely depressed, suicidal. I wrote in my journal.
And I remember spending a day just reading through the whole journal front to back. It ended up being kind of like the missing piece of the puzzle.
I was so mad at you.
Yeah.
I mean, you practically had to drag me to the hospital. I did not want to go at all.
But she did it. I'm so proud of her.
When I was told that I had bipolar disorder, it was devastating.
Now that we've been together so long, I know exactly where things are heading, but it just took time. Right when Mary wakes up, I know exactly how she's feeling. Rarely do I go, okay, that came out of nowhere. Which I think a lot of people think, well, bipolar is, well, she woke up this morning, she's smiling and giving babies hugs and kisses, and in the afternoon, she's losing her mind. That's not bipolar disorder. It's the slow onset, and it moves really slowly. There's nothing I could say or do that's going to make her snap out of it. I can't change it. I can only just be there for her.
My brain does not have a cap to how amazing I can feel, but it also doesn't have a plug to how horrible I can feel. I said, well, how about we illustrate my feelings in pictures? I think that would be very powerful.
Mary's come up with so many great ideas, over the years. But then when she mentioned this one, I'm like, this is it, Mary.
He booked the tickets. He gave me the contact information of a photographer to take these pictures for me and made it a reality. When I get these uncontrollable feelings of rage, it's so overwhelming.
It's almost like a volcano about to explode. I can see it coming.
Suicidal thoughts is when you are so profoundly depressed and in your deranged, irrational state of mind, you think the only thing that will help you is killing yourself, which absolutely I know is not the answer. It's very hard, and there's a lot of people who feel that every day. Creativity feels like your brain needs to go for an extremely long run.
I get excited for her. I'm like, wow, what an amazing thought. I mean, she can have ideas and be so futuristic, in a capacity that I could never get to. Sadness is obviously a lot harder for Mary than it is for me.
You just keep crying and crying. For me personally, for no reason. I don't want my kids to remember me as a sad person, having to explain to them, mommy's brain hurts right now. I'm just sick. For me, that's the hardest part. Hypersexuality is probably my husband's favorite symptom of them all.
Not bad. We work through it.
It's like the whole world is sex. I think one of the hallmarks of bipolar disorder is people having affairs, and I am more in love with him than I think anybody could be with anybody. But in that state of mind, I can absolutely see how affairs happen. Paranoia for me manifests itself more as, I think, fear. There's this constant underlying guilt with everything. Grandiosity is awesome. You can do anything that you want to. Those fleeting moments of grandiosity are amazing. Despair is feeling like there are a ton of bricks on you. You cannot move. I started a Facebook and blog and Instagram about everything bipolar. My blog is called So Bipolar. Bipolar is a very misunderstood mental illness, and the more we talk about it, the more people will understand, and there will be less stigma.
You look at other people that have, maybe a family member has, or their spouse has diabetes or something else complicated. At that point, you don't give up on love just because one family member is sick.
our marriage is so successful because of the way we respond to it and how supportive he is of me.
I know we've been talking a lot about how, I pick Mary up, but it goes both ways. Mary is always there for me and all, everything that I go through. And then in turn, I'm there for Mary when she needs my help. There is no tip or trick. There's no solution. But at the end of the day, like, Mary and I love each other, and this marriage is going to last until we die. That's the way we're doing it.
Wow.
Yeah.
You need to watch it sometime with the pictures, Michaela.
Yeah.
Oh, I did. I actually, I pulled it
Was
up and
Helen-
posted it on YouTube and like had it going with you. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was very powerful.
Yeah.
So what is it that you notice in the video?
There are so many different feelings that she has that I was like, I can't imagine feeling those all in like 1 week even. And so that's one thing that stuck out to me, and her pictures were so powerful. They just really did a really good job at expressing what she was feeling.
And yeah, to me, it looks like she really doesn't have any control over those thoughts. They just happen, and there's nothing she can do about it.
Exactly. It's I think that's one of the hardest thing about having this kind of disorder is that if they could visually express how they feel in every day, I think it will be a little bit easier to understand. But like the husband was saying, like this was said out of nowhere. So sometimes you might understand that she's going through something, but you might not be necessarily ready to go through what she's going through at the same time.
Because you're human.
Yeah.
That'd be hard.
Sorry, my husband just distracted me. How do you think her life is different because of bipolar disorder?
I don't know. I would feel if I was her, I would like not want to do anything. I would just want to be bound to the house and just be like, here I am. But so I can't imagine the stress, and like she said with her kids, like it's hard. That's the hardest part, is telling your children, like, mommy's brain just hurts. I don't feel good. I can't do this right now. Like, I can't imagine that stress. I don't know. Anyways, so for everyday life must be difficult.
It would be hard, I think. I mean, if you had a job or something and you just were in that state of suicide thoughts or depression or something, and it would make it really hard.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think his life is different because of her mental issues?
The same, super stressful. Not the same, but there's a lot of stress. I can imagine. But also, I think like he showed in the video at least that he's in love with her. So like whatever happens, and they work through it. And so, but at the same time, I feel like that can eat at him as well. And anyways, I know because I have like anxiety and depression as well. And so for my husband, I get really rageful. And if I don't take my pill, it shows. And anyways, and so sometimes like when I went in to go, because I've had to go through a few medications to find, and we still haven't found the right one, but it's for my husband. It was something that my doctor went through stuff with me, and then he said, okay, he said, now he's like, when you need help, you get help. You know, he's like, don't forget about yourself. And so I think sometimes, like, you know, sometimes they kind of forget that they also are going through so much stress because they're watching their loved ones go through something so horrible. And sometimes that can get to them as well and cause some, you know, some stress and issues in themselves. So I can't imagine what he's going through either.
Amen to what she says.
Well, this is pretty much what I'm gonna share with you so far.
Great.
Thank
That
you.
is awesome.
That's
I don't know.
wonderful.
This is gonna be hard. I wanna do this, but it makes me so upset. Like it makes me wanna cry sometimes because, especially this video, you know, because my personal experience with a friend that was bipolar, it was like, you know, I didn't understand what that was, you know, and it was like we went to a singles activity one time. The first time that she didn't even tell me she had that. The first time that she had one of those episodes, she was so excited and happy, and I was just like, "Yeah, man, yeah, let's do this." And like we were dancing and everything, and all of a sudden she started to be so depressed, and I was like, "What happened?" You know, I thought someone did something to her. I was about to, you know, hurt somebody, you know, because I didn't know what was wrong with her, and I didn't understand. Like it just, I mean, it was hard.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine people telling anybody, you know. And I think that's why there's so much stigma about it, because nobody wants to tell you, "Hey, I'm, you know, I have bipolar, or I'm depressed, or I have PTSD," because they don't know how they're gonna react.
Yeah.
I know for me, like I don't have bipolar or schizophrenia or anything, but with my anxiety and depression and stuff like that, like sometimes it is hard because there is a stigma, and sometimes you don't want to. It's almost like you get prideful, and at least for me, I was very prideful at first. That I thought, you know what, I can handle this, I can do it. But then like having to tell people, like, you know, yeah, I'm medicated. Like I had to go that far, you know, or, you know, yeah, we have to go to counseling, or we have to go to marriage counseling because of my issue, or, you know, things like that. Sometimes it is hard to, like, with the stigma and everything. And so I'm thankful that you're doing this workshop because, like, mental illness awareness is not great enough. I tell you, like, there needs to be more, because it's such, like, sometimes I don't know, because I would have a hard time too. I would be choking up the whole time, and then I'd be like angry, and then and stuff like that. But I think people don't understand that it's not so easy to change. The brain is hard to change. It's not a physical thing where you can just say, okay, you know, and not to say that physical things are not, you know, hard, but they're the same. They're essentially the same thing, and they're hard to figure out, you know. And so I think I'm just really excited that you're doing this and that you're putting it out there, because I think it needs to be done.
Well, I just think that it's not only mental, it's also physical. Like a lot of people that have mental issues, they also may have diabetes. They might also have other like high blood pressure because of mental issues.
That's me.
You know what I mean? And that's because I'm doing the internship in a place is integrated health. They have substance abuse, primary doctor, and mental issues. And I was just the first time I went, I was looking at it. I'm like, this is so true. It's so connected. You know, you have to take care of the other part of your health to be okay. And I don't know. I just don't. I mean, the point of this that I'm trying to do is to one, to not make them feel like they are the disease. They have it, but that's not who they are. And the other thing is to, you know, to kind of find their voice. Like, if you say it more, people will be
Mhm.
more aware, and you don't have to be scared of what they think. They don't understand because you know we don't say it enough.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I agree.
we
And I
don't
feel
say
that,
it enough, and it's not because like we see it in the news now that there's all these shootings and stuff. Now we talk about it, but we have to talk about it more often so that things don't happen. And I mean, they don't have to happen these huge crazy things, but there are little things in our own family that can affect the family as well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyways, thank you so much, ladies.
no, thank you.
Yeah,
This is a
Good. I'll-
good thing you're doing. Yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
and I'll send
Jenica
you.
found that video. I was like, Jenica, oh my god, oh Jenica. I know. I was like,
No
no.
makeup day today. Oh yeah, very powerful. That was a
I
good.
know,
That's
like-
a good choice in video for sure. And I really do like. I wrote in the notes. I'll send you these notes or whatever. But I wrote too. Like I really like that you're very interactive. You have a lot of activities and discussions to make us get involved. So I really like that. So good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a workshop for 8 hours, and I look at what they did because 8 hours of people talking to you can be very boring.
Oh. Yep. So you got it down. Good job. Well, good.
Well, thank you, ladies. I would fill out the things and send it
Okay.
to your email right now so that you can have time to do your paper.
Yep. I will send yours.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And don't
ahead.
be merciful. I really need your criticism because I mean I really want to do a good job on the presenting this.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, that's where I'm like, I don't even know. So
Okay.
I'll
Thank you
think
so
hard.
much.
I'll think hard. Okay. Thanks, guys.
I will send you the link too. Do you want me to
Okay,
send you
that
the
sounds
link?
good.
Yes.
I will send you
Yeah.
the link, and I will send you the form at the same time.
Okay.
Okay.
That will be great.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Good night.